these reports, and I'm sure other organizations will do so as well. So thank you very much. These reports are important, and we thank you for presenting them. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I now take you to the second session, A Resilient World, the G20's Contribution, Disaster Risk Reduction, Climate Change, Just Energy Transitions, and Food Systems. I will now allow inputs or interventions, and we had hoped that those who wish to make interventions on this topic should be able to do so, and those who feel that they would like to make interventions in the third session can forego whatever intervention they wish to make. I do have a list. We are working against time because the morning was rather important in terms of having the declaration adopted, but allowing those who were making interventions a little bit more time as they wanted to express themselves. Now, we want to limit inputs to strictly the minutes that are set out, 4 minutes each, and thereafter we will go to 3 minutes each for invited countries. I will make my intervention later, and I would now like to ask President Lula da Silva, the President of the Federative Republic of Brazil, to make his intervention in this regard.
Eu quero, mais uma vez, reiterar meus cumprimentos ao presidente Ramaphosa, cumprimentar a presidenta da Namíbia, a senhora Netumbo, e também cumprimentar o Antônio Guterres, secretário-geral das Nações Unidas, por meio de quem eu cumprimento todas as entidades internacionais aqui presentes. Esta oportuna sessão ocorre no mesmo tempo em que estamos por 2 palavras para concluirmos as negociações da COP30 no Brasil. No ano em que o planeta ultrapassou pela primeira vez, e talvez de forma permanente, o limite de 1,5 graus acima dos níveis pré-industriais, a comunidade internacional tinha diante de si uma escolha: continuar ou desistir. Optamos pela primeira alternativa. Na COP da verdade, a ciência prevaleceu. O multilateralismo venceu. Reafirmamos nosso compromisso com o Acordo de Paris. Saímos de Belém com um quadro renovado de contribuições nacionalmente determinadas. Mobilizamos a sociedade civil, a academia, o setor privado, os povos indígenas e os movimentos sociais, para fazer da COP30 a COP com a segunda maior participação da história. Entramos agora numa nova etapa que exigirá esforço simultâneo em 2 frentes. Acelerar as ações do enfrentamento da mudança do clima e nos preparar para uma nova realidade climática. O G20 cumpre papel central em ambas. O grupo responde por 77% das emissões globais. É do G20 que um novo modelo de economia deve emergir. O grupo é um ator-chave na elaboração de um mapa do caminho para afastar o mundo dos combustíveis fósseis. A COP30 mostrou que o mundo precisa enfrentar esse debate. A semente dessa proposta foi plantada e irá frutificar mais cedo ou mais tarde. A mudança do clima não é uma simples questão de política ambiental. É, sobretudo, um desafio de planejamento econômico. As prioridades estão invertidas. É inconcebível que não sejamos capazes de mobilizar US$ 1,3 trilhão em financiamento climático, enquanto o dobro desse montante é consumido por despesas militares. Fortalecer a capacidade de prevenção e resposta a desastres é uma questão de vida ou morte. Sistema de alerta precoce não bastam. O sistema vai colocar às provas nossas pontes, rodovias, edifícios e linha de transmissão. Vai exigir forma mais eficiente de gerir a água, cultivar alimentos e produzir energia. Vai obrigar milhares de pessoas e de negócios a buscarem áreas mais seguras para viver e empreender. Os princípios voluntários para investir em redução de risco e de desastres, aprovados sob a liderança sul-africana do G20, enfatizam a necessidade de financiamento de longo prazo. Construir resiliência não é gasto, é investimento. Para cada dólar investido em adaptação, ganha-se 4 dólares em prejuízos evitados e outros benefícios sociais e econômicos. Mas um mundo resiliente não se faz apenas com infraestrutura. Quando alguém é atingido por um evento extremo, são as políticas públicas do Estado que ajudam a se reerguer. Contudo, cerca da metade da população mundial não conta com proteção social. Quase 700 milhões de pessoas ainda sofrem com a fome. Vai contra nosso sentido mais elementar de justiça permitir que as maiores vítimas da crise climática sejam aquelas que menos contribuíram para causá-la. O Brasil lançou na COP30 a Declaração de Belém sobre fome, pobreza e ação climática, centrada nas pessoas. Nela, reforçamos 3 compromissos: fortalecer a proteção social, apoiar pequenos produtores e garantir alternativas de vida sustentáveis para comunidades que vivem nas florestas. O G20 pode proteger cadeias alimentares por meio de medidas como compras públicas e seguros rurais. Também pode remunerar quem preserva as florestas por meio do Fundo Florestas Tropicais para Sempre, lançado na COP30. Só haverá transição justa se o G20 liderar o caminho. Como nos ensinou Nelson Mandela, tudo parece impossível até que seja feito. A hora de fazer é agora. Muito obrigado.
Thank you, President Lula. I'd now like to ask His Excellency President João Manuel Lourenço, the President of the Republic of Angola and the Chairperson of the African Union, to take the floor.
Muito obrigado. Sua Excelência Cyril Ramaphosa, Presidente da República da África do Sul e Presidente do G20, Suas Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, Excelências. A recuperação global após a pandemia da Covid-19 realçou a importância de um mundo resiliente. Contudo, o nosso planeta e as populações continuam a enfrentar efeitos e impactos catastróficos do aquecimento global. As alterações climáticas são uma realidade e têm vindo a afetar gravemente a segurança alimentar, ao perturbarem os sistemas alimentares, para além de gerarem conflitos e provocar deslocações de pessoas, agravando ainda mais a crise humanitária existente. O novo Programa Abrangente de Desenvolvimento Agrícola para a África, a Estratégia de Kampala e o Plano de Ação 2026-2035 focam-se na construção de sistemas agroalimentares resilientes e sustentáveis. O Programa Abrangente de Desenvolvimento Agrícola para a África, em particular com o Grupo de Trabalho do G20 para a Segurança Alimentar, criado pela Presidência Sul-Africana, em conjunto com as organizações internacionais relevantes, como a FAO e o PAM, continuará a apoiar a implementação da Aliança Global contra a fome e a pobreza, lançada durante a presidência do G20 do Brasil. Aplaudimos as abordagens inspiradas na filosofia africana sobre segurança alimentar e nutrição. Enaltecemos a liderança da presidência sul-africana no avanço da Agenda Global de Segurança Alimentar e Nutricional através da criação deste grupo de trabalho e propomos a sua continuidade no âmbito do nosso programa. Excelências, as transições para uma energia justa e verde requerem a estabilização sine qua non da situação de paz e segurança, particularmente em África, além do reforço da resiliência e do facto de que a resposta e preparação para desastres naturais deve permanecer no centro das nossas preocupações. Neste sentido, em alinhamento com a estratégia da União Africana sobre as alterações climáticas e desenvolvimento resiliente, saudamos os resultados da COP30, realizada recentemente em Belém do Pará, no Brasil, incluindo os respectivos mecanismos de financiamento verde e azul para regiões e países fortemente impactados pelas alterações climáticas. Considero que o G20 deve reafirmar o seu firme compromisso com a Convenção Quadro das Nações Unidas sobre as Alterações Climáticas e o Acordo de Paris e mobilizar esforços para acelerar a plena implementação de todos os objetivos, metas e mecanismos acordados, especialmente no que respeita ao financiamento climático. Convictos da importância vital de investir nas transições energéticas, na tecnologia e nas infraestruturas, Angola, na qualidade de presidente da União Africana, assumiu a liderança na Congregação dos Parceiros de Desenvolvimento de África para a busca de soluções adequadas para o financiamento das infraestruturas continentais críticas. Agradeço o apoio dos líderes e países do G20, assim como das instituições internacionais que se associaram a nós nesta relevante missão. Excelências, esta cimeira do G20 reveste de um caráter fundamental para a renovação e o reforço dos nossos compromissos coletivos multilaterais em prol do avanço de um desenvolvimento global equitativo. Para este efeito, o continente africano contribuirá de forma ativa por intermédio da Zona de Comércio Livre Continental Africana, um dos maiores mercados econômicos integrados do mundo. Em paralelo e tendo em conta a abundância de recursos naturais críticos e estratégicos de que dispõe, as vastas reservas de biodiversidade e o seu potencial demográfico, a África terá um papel incontornável nos contributos que prestará para impulsionar a transição verde à escala global. Concretizaremos este objetivo com o envolvimento de todos nós. Muito obrigado pela atenção prestada.
Thank you, President Lorenzo. We will start to pick up pace, as I will ask the interventions to stick to the time allocated. I now ask His Excellency Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, to take the floor.
Well, thank you very much, President Ramaphosa. Each and every one of our nations is home to unique natural treasures, and all of our citizens are living with the environmental reality of climate change. Australians have always known drought, floods and bushfires, but they're more intense and they're more frequent. And as we meet here today, there is a cyclone has hit Darwin with devastating impact on that community in Australia's north. The truth is that climate change carries a human toll for communities battling natural disasters and for those who depend upon the land for their livelihood. It has a devastating impact on our economies. So the argument that somehow you can take action on climate change or support economic growth is a false one. We need to deal with the challenge of climate change in order to ensure that our economies can grow. It is critical that we embrace clean energy, and this represents a generational economic opportunity. The G20 enables us to bring global ambition and global cooperation to this task. And the vital message that we must send to the world is that action on climate change is not a matter of asking any nation to forego the jobs, prosperity or security that its people deserve. It's about working with every nation to power the next generation of economic growth while protecting the environment for generations to come. Next year, we will assist Turkey in hosting the COP meeting in Antalya, and we will work constructively to ensure that there are positive outcomes. South Africa's prioritisation of disaster resilience during your G20 presidency reflects the pressing need for collective action, and Australia is proud to be matching our words with actions. At the UN in September, I announced our new 2035 emissions reduction target of 62 to 70% by then. Our target is ambitious, but importantly, it is achievable. It provides the certainty for new national and global investment in jobs and industries of clean energy. At home, Australia is investing in our Disaster Ready Fund to support communities devastated by these natural disasters. In our region, we're supporting the Pacific family to respond to natural disasters and prepare for them with our Australian Humanitarian Partnerships $100 million Disaster Ready program, and we've put in an additional $100 million into the Pacific Resilience Facility that will be so important going forward. We're also investing in climate-smart agricultural practices, and here on the African continent, the Africa-Australia Partnership for Climate-Responsive Agriculture aims to guard against food shortages. Colleagues, none of our nations are immune from the environmental challenges of climate change. All of our citizens can benefit from the opportunities of clean energy. As a forum and as leaders, we have a responsibility to our children and grandchildren and the generations to come to make sure that we choose to do the right thing, not choose between protecting our environment or securing our prosperity. We can do both, and indeed we must do both, because each depends on the other.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for sticking to your time. I now want to ask His Excellency, Prime Minister of Canada, Dr. Mark Joseph Carney, to take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I will try to follow the Australian example. Let me start. This session is on resilience, and I want to join others who pointed out in the first session the fragility of armed conflict, condemning the Russia's illegal, unjustified and barbaric invasion of Ukraine, the appalling conflict in Sudan, and our support for all efforts that can lead to just and lasting peace. Now let me speak to climate change. It's been over a decade that we've realized that past is not prologue with respect to climate change. In other words, the tail risks of yesterday become the central scenarios of today. Tipping points are now being realized. And I want to give an example. 2 years ago, the forest fires in Canada alone made Canada the 4th largest emitter of carbon in the world. We have the example of the Darwin cyclone. This year, forest fire damage forests bigger than Sierra Leone, to give orders of magnitude. So we need action on all levels: mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. International collaboration is crucial. I want to thank our hosts, South Africa, Mexico, and others who sent firefighters to Canada to help fight the fires. Coordination through early warning systems. The wildfire satellite system that we're putting in place as part of the G7, global public good, the work of the G20 in disaster risk reduction. Nature-based solutions. We're working towards our 30-30 commitment under the Montreal Kunming Protocol. I want to support the tropical forest financing facility of Brazil's COP, as well as the broader effort, and congratulate them on that. In terms of our own mitigation, I'll just frame it as follows. We view addressing climate change as a moral duty, but also a commercial imperative, as Prime Minister Albanese just intimated. So our strategy on reducing emissions is a climate competitiveness strategy because it will make our businesses stronger. I referenced in my earlier comments blended finance. I'll just reinforce those, the importance of those efforts, including through the World Bank and beyond. But I want to highlight a few other issues before my time is up. First, the importance of high-integrity, standardized carbon markets that have the potential to shift capital flows to those most affected by climate change, including being integrated with JETPs, such as the JETP here, changing the incentives and the financial calculations to decarbonize. I'd suggest that we can catalyze enormous private sector demand for these credits by committing AI data center development to be carbon neutral. We need a price on carbon. I salute my neighbor, the European Union, in pricing carbon and putting in place a CBAM. I'm going to conclude by drawing attention to the situation of one of the members around this table, and I hope Prime Minister Holness of Jamaica will allow me. The economic cost of Hurricane Melissa is about 40% of Jamaica's GDP. Now, through remarkable discipline, Jamaica had reduced their debt to GDP by over 50 percentage points in recent years. That is all gone with the explosive hurricane. This demonstrates the importance of investing in resilience in advance, the importance of catastrophic risk insurance, and the reality of what climate change is doing to our countries. I salute the ambition of the G20 presidency, Turkey, for hosting COP alongside Australia next year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The challenge that Jamaica faced is a really sad story, and putting the figures that you have, Prime Minister Carney, just makes the case much more a devastating one. Your Excellencies, I am receiving requests for countries who want to forgo their right to speak. That is very welcome because that shortens our list so that we can finish in time to go and have the time to have the dinner that has been prepared. So if any country is moved to follow the same example as the United Kingdom and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who have forgone their right to speak, please do indicate so that we do not have to call you up. My next speaker who will be making an intervention is His Excellency, the Premier of the People's Republic of China, His Excellency Li Qiang. Please take the floor.
谢谢拉马福萨总统，各位同事，当前气候变、能源、粮食等多种挑战叠加，尤其需要国际社会以团结凝聚力量，靠协作破解难题。G20应当发扬伙伴精神，展现更加积极的政治意愿，推动更为广泛的国际合作，共同应对挑战，合力推进发展。第一，加强生态环保合作，提升发展韧性。气候和生态问题关系全人类的长远发展。这些年，全球极端天气等事件频发，实施巴黎协定目标时间紧迫，任重道远。G20应当秉持科学精神，坚持共同但有区别的责任原则，体现担当，抓紧行动。中国已经宣布新一轮国家自主贡献的目标，我愿意同各方加强昆明、蒙特利尔全球生物多样性框架的之内的合作，推动第30届联合国气变大会成果加快落地。第二，加强绿色能源合作，推进 公正转型，太阳能、风能等新能源天然具有普惠公平的特点，推动能源体系绿色转型，不仅为人类发展提供强劲动能，也将更好地保障各国平等发展的权利。G20应当推动全球绿色产业合作，保持产业链、供应链的稳定畅通，促进相关技术、产品等自由流通应用。中国已经建成全球最大的可再生能源体系，我们同100多个国家和地区开展了绿色能源合作。过去5年，向世界提供的风电、光伏产品，累计为其他国家减少约41亿吨的碳排放。中方愿意继续以自身所能为各国能源转型提供支持。第三，加强粮食安全合作，保障稳定供应。现在全球仍然有7亿多人面临饥饿的威胁，必须采取切实行动，为他们提供必要的帮助。G20应当推动优化全球粮食流通供给，构建大宗商品合作伙伴关系，建设开放、稳定、可持续的全球粮食市场，强化对粮食短缺国家的供应保障。同时，我们要用好 G20农业部长会等相关平台，加强农业科技合作，提升粮食生产能力。中方也愿意同各国一起推动落实国际粮食安全合作倡议，为抗击饥饿与贫困做出新的贡献。谢谢大家。
Thank you, Premier Lee. I now ask His Excellency Antonio da Costa, the President of the European Council, to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Natural and man-made disasters are happening more and more often. They are increasing in intensity and having devastating consequences worldwide. The threat to our communities, our environment, and our prosperity is very real. Take the case of wildfires. In 2025 alone, the equivalent of 1/3 of land size of Argentina has burned down. The European Union strongly supports the approach, priorities, and efforts of the South African presidency of G20 on disaster risk reduction, the ex-post approach. But in this session, I choose to talk about root causes. Yes, climate change is real, and together with biodiversity loss and pollution, it can still be stopped. Despite progress, global pledges to cut emissions are not sufficient to limit the rise of temperatures to 1.5 degrees warming. The European Union is a global leader in this effort, and we are staying the course, fully committed to the Paris Agreement. A couple of weeks ago, we committed to an ambitious intermediate goal of reducing emissions by 90% by 2040. The European Union will remain a trusted partner in supporting the countries most exposed to climate change. Last year, the European Union provided 31.7 billion euros from public sources, and we mobilized 11 billion euros of private finance to support developing countries to reduce emissions and adapt to the impacts of climate change. As Union of Values, we will continue to support this agenda. But we cannot do this alone, and we invite all G20 members to join us in taking bold collective action to secure a sustainable future for all.
Thank you, thank you. I now ask Her Excellency Dr. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, to take the floor.
Thank you very much, dear Cyril. This time I want to speak about the same topic like my friend Antonio Costa, climate change, but here focus on energy transitions. And it is a message of hope and opportunity that I want to bring to this G20 summit. It's a message about clean energy technologies and clean energy transitions. Not only do they meet our urgent need to tackle climate change, they do much more than that. Clean energy transitions are cost competitive as never before. They create jobs at home. They open new ways to bring modern energy to the many million that remain without access. And they are a natural fit for many developing economies. The International Energy Agency says that 80% of energy consumption growth over the next decade occurs in regions with high-quality solar resources. And it's not only about solar. There are huge opportunities in Africa and beyond for other technologies, for wind, for geothermal, for hydropower, for new low-emission fuels, and of course for the investments in grids, storage, and other infrastructure that tie the energy system together. So this can be the growth story of the 21st century. And therefore, I would like to assure you of two things. First, I want to assure you of Europe's commitment to lead by example. We are firmly on track to meet our own 2030 target. We have an ambitious NDC for 2035, and we have the goal to be climate neutral by 2050, so Europe is staying the course. Second, I want to assure you of Europe's commitment to partner with developing economies, to mobilize investments in clean energy around the world. And here let me give you 4 figures that are telling. Of the 2 trillion invested globally in clean energy last year, only 2% was in Africa, while Africa has 600 million people who have no access to electricity, and it is the continent with 60% of the world's best solar potential. So this cannot be. We must change this imbalance. And that is at the core of Europe's Global Gateway Initiative. These are 150 billion euros investment program for Africa, of which 25% goes into grids and into interconnectors. And that is also why, together with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, my friend, we launched the campaign called Scaling Up Renewables for Africa. Yesterday we had a big pledging event. We're working with governments and the private sector, and thank you to many, many of you around the table who contributed to the pledging event. We reached 15.5 billion euros pledges for investment in renewables in Africa. A big success, and many thanks again for that. Thank you.
Thank you for passing on that message, Ursula. I now would like to call upon His Excellency President Emmanuel Macron, the President of the French Republic.
So it's only me, Mr. President. I'm the Finance Minister. I'm going to give the introduction in the name of President Macron, who just is at a meeting now. Thank you. Je remercie l'Afrique du Sud d'avoir mis à l'agenda la question de la résilience de ce monde que nous avons en commun. Nous avons ce matin parlé de nos économies, mais nous ne devons pas oublier nos biens communs. Les défis et les dangers qui menacent notre planète ne peuvent être traités que collectivement, ensemble. Les effets du changement climatique, la dégradation de l'environnement, les pollutions, la perte de biodiversité, la multiplication des catastrophes climatiques et l'impact de ces facteurs sur les systèmes alimentaires sont interconnectés avec des conséquences claires sur nos économies et nos sociétés quand le développement et la croissance sont des facteurs de paix. Nous avons tous à perdre à choisir l'affrontement ou le repli sur soi plutôt que la coopération. Refuser de s'attaquer au changement climatique, de bâtir un monde capable de résister aux catastrophes naturelles, de travailler à des systèmes alimentaires performants ou de coopérer en matière de santé, c'est nous fragiliser collectivement. Je me félicite donc de l'adoption par nos ministres de principes de haut niveau sur le financement de la réduction des risques de catastrophes qui soulignent notre volonté commune d'agir plus tôt et de reconstruire de manière plus durable. À l'image des catastrophes naturelles de plus en plus nombreuses à cause du changement climatique, les pandémies ne connaissent pas de frontières. Je me réjouis donc de l'accord mondial sur la prévention, la préparation et la riposte face aux pandémies. Cette adoption représente une victoire claire pour le multilatéralisme. C'est une avancée majeure pour notre sécurité sanitaire qui consacre pour la première fois dans le droit international l'approche une seule santé, One Health. Cette approche, elle doit être notre boussole pour promouvoir l'inclusion systématique des enjeux de santé animale et de santé de nos écosystèmes pour élaborer des politiques publiques vertueuses. L'engagement de la France se traduit par le One Health Summit que nous accueillerons à Lyon le 7 avril prochain. Ce sommet doit parvenir à des engagements ambitieux, des solutions innovantes et des initiatives concrètes pour répondre de façon durable aux problèmes prioritaires touchant la santé quotidienne de nos populations. La santé ne peut en effet plus se penser sans la sécurité alimentaire ni une alimentation saine, car l'obésité est en train de devenir une pandémie. Rien n'est possible sans accès à l'alimentation, ni l'éducation, essentielle pour une croissance économique durable, ni la paix, ni même le progrès démocratique. C'est la raison pour laquelle nous restons pleinement engagés, à l'instar de notre coprésidence de la Coalition pour l'alimentation scolaire, du Programme alimentaire mondial et de l'accueil du sommet Nutrition for Growth, qui a confirmé la forte mobilisation politique sur ces enjeux avec des engagements financiers à hauteur de 30 milliards de dollars. Et c'est pour ça également que cette question sera au cœur du sommet Africa Forward, organisé par notre partenaire kényan en mai 2026 à Nairobi. Cher Président Ramaphosa, chers collègues, la France continuera à porter ce multilatéralisme fondé sur la science de Johannesburg à Lyon, en passant par Nairobi, pour qu'ensemble nous puissions faire face aux nombreux défis environnementaux et sanitaires à venir. Merci.
Thank you. I now want to give the opportunity to His Excellency Friedrich Merz, the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany.
Thanks, you, Chair. Unfortunately, the Chancellor's in a meeting, and also the Finance Minister of Germany is speaking. And thank you, President Ramaphosa, first of all, for putting resilience on the top of our agenda. 2025 has tested our resilience and global stability. There is war and conflict, and communities have been tested by the increasing impact of climate change. Wildfires and floods destroying homes in many of our countries. And heat waves threaten our health, food and water supplies, and energy security. It's a heavy burden both for our economies and societies, and even more in so fragile regions and the most vulnerable countries. This is why we need to act. Our actions need to make our world more resilient by unlocking growth and protecting the climate at the same time. We should create the right conditions to create more business cases for action. Protecting the climate and creating business opportunities can and must go hand in hand. To make this happen, we need to use all technologies available. And we need to give space for new technologies to emerge. With the right market framework, new technologies can become the most attractive option for providers and for consumers. Energy transition works best when businesses and end users benefit. For example, in the first half of this year, more than a third of global electricity was produced by renewables. Germany supports the transition. towards secure, affordable and clean energy at home and abroad. In this regard, I want to highlight our Just Energy Transition Partnership with South Africa. In this partnership, we exchange skills and technology. Over the last years, South Africa has emerged as a global leader in clean hydrogen, leveraging its huge energy potential and mineral resources. This can benefit countries that are energy importers, and it helps build overall resilience. We are happy to further continue on this energy trajectory with other African countries. Germany is also supporting the initiatives Scaling Up Renewables in Africa, launched by the EU and South Africa with more than 2 billion euros. Beyond creating the right framework, our cooperation is the key sector, with the private sector is key. This is the second lever. If we want to increase our resilience, we need to mobilize the flow of private capital. There are still too many structural barriers politically and economically. This discourages private investments globally, but in particular in Africa. This is why Chancellor Friedrich Merz and also President Ramaphosa just kicked off the initiative's Compact with Africa 2.0. By pushing reforms, members of the Compact help their businesses to attract private investment in the energy sector, but also beyond. And with G20 partners, we launched the scaled initiatives last year. We are working together with leading insurance companies on blended finance to allow the private sector to invest in an easier and more efficient way. We should take these kinds of initiatives forward. Let us work together to leverage innovation and investment for a resilient world, just as we set out when we founded the G20 back in 2008. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We welcome that. I now want to call Her Excellency Ms. Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, we all know no one can tackle alone global challenges as climate change and the vulnerability of food systems. As members of the G20, we have a shared responsibility to find a way forward but we also know that way forward must be based on common sense. In my opinion, we must abandon once and for all the ideological dogmatism that is causing more harm than good. In Europe, for example, choices have been made in the past that have brought entire productive sector to their knees without producing any real benefit in terms of global emissions. And in Africa, dogmatic approaches imposed by foreign partners that do not take into account the specificities of African nations paradoxically risk reinforcing all patterns of dependency. This is a losing strategy. So a pragmatic balance must be found between the need to limit emissions and the risk of compromising the most advanced productive systems and preventing the weaker ones from establishing themselves. In our opinion, the challenge is to affirm the principle of technological neutrality, because there is no single solution capable of quickly building a solid alternative to fossil fuel supplies, but also because this spurs research, innovation, and virtuous competition. The energy mix must be balanced and must combine all available technologies: renewable gas, hydrogen, biofuels, CO2 capture systems, as well as research into nuclear fusion, which would change history by producing clean, safe, and unlimited energy. This is the approach that inspires Italy and to which we contribute with industrial expertise, technological capabilities, new financial instruments, and cooperation with other nations. For example, we've launched investments in Africa worth a total of almost 2.5 billion euros, financing projects ranging from the construction of large renewable energy plants to innovative solutions for production and storage. And also on food systems, Italy continues to do its part. We co-organized the last United Nations Summit on Food Systems with Ethiopia. We are making our agri-food know-how available to our African partners, and we are building public-private partnerships with them that guarantee concrete results. We are successfully working on this, for example, in Algeria, where we are working together to reclaim over 36,000 hectares of desert to produce up to 45,000 tons more cereals and legumes per year, generating benefits for over 600,000 people. And we are now replying this experiment in Senegal, Ghana, and Congo, and aim to involve other nations on the continent. But I want to be clear while closing my remarks. Our goal is not to create dependency. Our goal is to support self-sufficiency, because we believe in dignity of people, we believe in the freedom of nations, and we believe in the strength of genuine partnerships. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, my sister Giorgia Meloni. I now ask His Excellency, President of the Republic of Korea, Mr. Lee Jae-myung, to take the floor. Okay, I'm sure he's in a bilateral somewhere. I then ask His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Turkey, His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, to take the floor. There are lots of bilaterals taking place at this time, and now I move on to His Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Republic of India, His Excellency Narendra Modi. Excellency Erdogan is there. My apologies. We'll get...
Saygıdeğer devlet ve hükümet başkanları, kıymetli delegeler, sabahki oturumumuzda ifade olunduğu üzere doğal salgınlar, iklim değişikliği ve afetler gibi yeni sınamalarla karşı karşıya kalıyoruz. 6 Şubat 2023'te yaşadığımız ve asrın felaketi olarak isimlendirdiğimiz yıkıcı depremlerin ardından dünyanın en büyük inşa operasyonunu yürütüyoruz. Bu çerçevede 350.000. konut ve iş yerinin teslimini geçtiğimiz günlerde gerçekleştirdik. Geriye kalan 100.000 ünitenin tamamlanmasıyla 4 yıldan kısa bir süre içinde dünyanın en büyük inşa faaliyetlerinden birini tamamlamış olacağız. Bu süreçte sergilediğimiz dayanıklılık, Türkiye ekonomisinin nedenli sağlam temellere sahip olduğunu bir kez daha ortaya koymuştur. Diğer yandan iklim krizinin menfi etkilerinin en yoğun hissedildiği ülkeler arasındayız. 2025 yılında karşı karşıya kaldığımız zirai don ve ardından şiddetli kuraklık hem gıda fiyatlarında hem de enerji arzında büyük baskılar doğurdu. Yaşadığımız her acı tecrübe iklim değişikliğiyle mücadeleye, sürdürülebilir kalkınmaya, gıda, su güvenliğini güçlendirmeye önem vermemiz gerektiğini gösteriyor. Geçtiğimiz aylarda kabul edilen iklim kanunumuz 2053 yılında net sıfır emisyona ulaşma ve yeşil kalkınma hedefimizi gerçekleştirme noktasında önemli bir dönüm noktasını teşkil ediyor. Kanun kapsamında ayrıca temiz teknoloji yatırımlarının artırılması ve tüm sektörler için adil dönüşümün finansman olarak desteklenmesini amaçlıyoruz. 2035 yılına kadar güneş ve rüzgar enerjisi kapasitemizi mevcudun 4 katına çıkarmayı öngörüyoruz. Şimdiden bu yıl itibariyle toplam kurulu güç içerisinde yenilenebilir enerjinin payını %60'ın üzerine çıkarmış durumdayız. Ayrıca Birleşmiş Milletler'in desteğiyle küresel bir çevre hareketine dönen sıfır atık projesiyle birlikte çevresel konularda çalışmalarımızı güçlendiriyoruz. Bu düşüncelerle Birleşmiş Milletler İklim Değişikliği Çerçeve Sözleşmesi 31. Taraflar Konferansı'nı önümüzdeki sene Kasım ayında Türkiye'de düzenlemeyi planlıyoruz. Son dönemde çok taraflılığın kaybettiği zemin dikkate alındığında bu hususta Avustralya ile sağladığımız mutabakatı çok daha anlamlı buluyorum. Ayrıca Güney Afrika Dönem Başkanlığı'nın gıda güvenliği konusundaki çalışmalarını takdirle karşılıyoruz. G20 olarak gıda güvenliğini tesis etme noktasındaki çabalarımızı önümüzdeki dönemde artırmamızın çok isabetli olacağına gönülden inanıyorum. Tabii tüm bu gayretlerin ekonomik maliyeti çok yüksektir. Bilhassa gelişmekte olan ülkelerin ihtiyaçlarına cevap verecek bir finansman sisteminin hayata geçirilmesi gerektiğine inanıyorum. Değerli dostlarım, Amerikan Başkanı Sayın Trump'ın girişimleri ve önde gelen bölge ülkelerinin katkılarıyla Gazze'de sağlanan ateşkesin devamı sadece Filistin halkı için değil, tüm dünyanın huzuru için azami önemdedir. Birleşmiş Milletler verilerine göre İsrail'in Gazze'de yol açtığı yıkım, Filistin'in kalkınma çabalarını asgari 70 yıl geriye götürmüştür. Gazze'de maalesef sadece üst yapının değil, çevrenin de yıkımına şahit olduk. 70 bini aşkın çocuk, kadın ve masum yetişkinin kaybının ise ne telafisi ne de gelecek nesillerin dimağında açtığı yaranın silinmesi mümkündür. Gelinen aşamada Gazze'de hem insani yardım faaliyetlerinin hızlandırılması hem de yeniden inşa faaliyetlerine gecikmeksizin başlanması esas olmalıdır. Birleşmiş Milletler kuruluşlarının Gazze'de insani yardımların koordinasyonundaki rolünü vazgeçilmez görüyoruz. Öte yandan kış şartlarıyla birlikte bilhassa barınma sorununun giderilmesinde zemin aleyhimize işliyor. Biz sahadaki ateşkesin sürmesine ve Gazze'nin yeniden inşasına katkı sunmaya şimdiye kadar olduğu üzere Filistin halkının yanında durmaya kararlıyız, hazırız. Kalıcı barışın yegane yolu olan iki devletli çözüm için uluslararası toplum olarak çabalarımızı sürdürmemiz gerektiğini bir kez daha vurguluyor. Bu düşüncelerle sizleri saygıyla selamlıyorum. Thank you.
Thank you, President Erdogan. My apologies for ignoring you the first time. Now I ask the Prime Minister of the Republic of India, His Excellency Mr. Narendra Modi.
Excellencies, नेचुरल डिजास्टर्स मानवता के लिए बहुत बड़ी चुनौती बने हुए हैं। इस वर्ष भी प्राकृतिक आपदाओं ने दुनिया की बहुत बड़ी आबादी को प्रभावित किया है। इससे स्पष्ट है कि प्राकृतिक आपदाओं से निपटने के लिए ग्लोबल कोऑपरेशन को हमें और मजबूत करना होगा। इसी सोच के साथ भारत ने अपनी G20 प्रेसिडेंसी के दौरान डिजास्टर रिस्क रिडक्शन वर्किंग ग्रुप की स्थापना की थी। इस महत्वपूर्ण एजेंडा को प्राथमिकता के साथ आगे बढ़ाने के लिए मैं साउथ अफ्रीका को बधाई देता हूं। फ्रेंड, डिजास्टर रेजिलियंस को लेकर हमारी अप्रोच रिस्पॉन्स सेंट्रिक से भी आगे डेवलपमेंट सेंट्रिक होनी चाहिए। कोalition फॉर डिजास्टर रेजिलिएंट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की स्थापना के पीछे भारत की यही सोच थी। G20 देश CDRI के साथ मिलकर फाइनेंस, टेक्नोलॉजी और स्किल डेवलपमेंट को मोबिलाइज कर सकते हैं, ये एक रेजिलिएंट फ्यूचर की गारंटी बन सकता है। फ्रेंड्स, भारत का ये भी मानना है कि स्पेस टेक्नोलॉजी से पूरी मानवता को लाभ हो, इसलिए भारत G20 ओपन सैटेलाइट डेटा पार्टनरशिप का सुझाव सामने रख रहा है। इससे G20 देशों के स्पेस एजेंसियों का सैटेलाइट डेटा और एनालिसिस ग्लोबल साउथ के देशों के लिए अधिक सुलभ, इंटरऑपरेबल और उपयोगी बनाया जा सकता है। फ्रेंड्स, ग्लोबल ग्रोथ के लिए सस्टेनेबिलिटी और क्लीन एनर्जी जरूरी है। ये सुनिश्चित करने के लिए क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स का बहुत बड़ा रोल है। ये मानवता की साझी संपदा है, इसलिए भारत G20 क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स सर्कुलेटरी इनिशिएटिव का प्रस्ताव रखता है। इसके तहत रिसाइकलिंग, अर्बन माइनिंग और सेकेंड लाइफ बैटरी जैसे इनोवेशन को बढ़ावा दिया जा सकता है। सर्कुलेटरी में इन्वेस्टमेंट होगी तो प्राइमरी माइनिंग पर निर्भरता कम रहेगी। इससे सप्लाई चेन पर भी दबाव कम होगा और नेचर के लिए भी ये अच्छा रहेगा। ये इनिशिएटिव ज्वाइंट रिसर्च टेक्नोलॉजी स्टैंडर्ड्स और ग्लोबल साउथ के पायलट रिसाइकलिंग फैसिलिटीज को सपोर्ट कर सकता है। फ्रेंड्स, नई दिल्ली G20 समिट के दौरान हमने संकल्प लिया था कि 2030 तक रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी को 3 गुना और एनर्जी एफिशिएंसी रेट को 2 गुना करेंगे। इस लक्ष्य को हासिल करने के लिए विकसित देशों को अफोर्डेबल क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस और टेक्नोलॉजी उपलब्ध कराने के लिए अपने कमिटमेंट्स को टाइम बाउंड तरीके से पूरा करना होगा। फ्रेंड्स, क्लाइमेट चेंज और अन्य चुनौतियों के कारण हमारे एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर और फूड सिक्योरिटी पर खतरा और गंभीर होता जा रहा है। कई देशों में किसानों के लिए फर्टिलाइजर्स, टेक्नोलॉजी, क्रेडिट, इंश्योरेंस और मार्केट एक्सेस की चुनौती बढ़ती जा रही है। भारत अपने स्तर पर इन चुनौतियों से निपटने का प्रयास कर रहा है। भारत में हम विश्व का सबसे बड़ा फूड सिक्योरिटी और न्यूट्रिशन सपोर्ट प्रोग्राम चला रहे हैं। विश्व का सबसे बड़ा हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस प्रोग्राम और सबसे बड़ी फसल बीमा योजना भी भारत चला रहा है। हम श्री अन्न यानी मिलेट्स पर बल दे रहे हैं, जो पोषण और पर्यावरण दोनों के लिए सुपर फूड है। दिल्ली G20 के दौरान इन सभी विषयों पर हमने डेकन प्रिंसिपल्स पर सहमति बनाई थी। अब हमें इन प्रिंसिपल्स पर आगे बढ़ते हुए एक G20 रोड मैप बनाना चाहिए। फ्रेंड्स, रेजिलियंस कैन नॉट बिल्ड इन साइलोस। G20 को ऐसी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव स्ट्रेटेजी को बढ़ावा देना चाहिए जो न्यूट्रिशन, पब्लिक हेल्थ, सस्टेनेबल एग्रीकल्चर और डिजास्टर प्रिपेयर्डनेस को जोड़कर एक मजबूत वैश्विक सुरक्षा बनाए। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you. I now ask Mr. Masanao Ozaki from the Republic of Japan to speak on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Chairman. 日本は課題先進国としての知見や経験を生かし、これまで災害、感染症、気候変動といった地球規模課題の解決に向け、各国の要望に基づいた取り組みを有言実行で実施してまいりました。第一に防災について、世界各地では自然災害が激甚化頻発化しており、持続的で強靭な社会の構築には災害対策が待ったなしであります。災害リスクの理解、防災投資、対応、とりわけ災害リスク削減のためのインフラ強靭化が重要であります。自然災害の多い日本は、世界一の防災大国を目指しています。日本はその知恵と技術を共有し、 仙台防災枠組みの実施など、国際協力を主導してきました。アフリカやアジアでは、テクノロジーも活用し、干ばつ対策、サイクロンシェルター整備、気象予報にかかる能力構築支援といったハード・ソフト両面の協力を行っています。また、自然災害は被災国、特に低所得国や島諸国の財政にも悪影響を及ぼし、迅速な復旧を妨げるため、日本は各地の災害リスクファイナンスの整備支援も主導しています。第2に、気候変動について、世界の気温上昇を工業化以前から 1.5 度以内に抑えるには、先進国のみならず、主要排出国をはじめ、国際社会が団結して取り組むことが必要であります。日本は引き続き、国内外の気候変動対策に取り組んでいきます。第3に、海洋の環境問題について、日本は G20 大阪サミットで、大阪ブルーオーシャンビジョンを提唱し、各国のプラスチック汚染対策を支援しています。プラスチック条約について、日本は多くの国が参加する実効的な